Guys, welcome back to this, which is part 3 of the Mode MZC training course on aldusacademy.net. In this particular video, we'll be looking at source assignments. There's one or two things to make you aware of when using the MZC in a sort of a daisy-chained fashion, where there's a master and a slave, and I'll be running through how to set up your sources depending on which sources you're using. So let's jump into Easy Tools. I'm going to pick up where I left off on the previous video. I did start explaining the source assignments in the previous video, but I'm just going to go into greater detail and show you one or two things. So on the left here of the project content, you can see that I've already got my sources set up. So if I select Miscellaneous, let's have a look at what happens to these source assignments when I've got multiple units. So in this particular setting, I'm only using or programming for one MZC66. So if I was to program for 2 and select Apply, you'll see that I now have an additional slave added to my project. If I click on the slave, you'll see that the source assignment options are all grayed out. This is because the sources are shared between the master and the slave. So whatever source assignments I make in the master apply automatically to the slave. Let's remove the master slave setup, as I just wanted to demonstrate that the sources are shared between the two units. So by adding two 66s together, you get 12 zones, but you still have 6 sources available. If we select the source setup, it brings us back to this screen. So as I mentioned, in the source name, this is where you select the type of source. There's placeholders for pretty much every source that you may wish to use. A few of these bring up the additional menu options on the right hand side if they are mode specific devices, such as the iPod. I would assign the address as it is in real life. There's an address wheel on the actual device, and here I can select whether or not I want to use the input which is built into the mode base, or the input which is built into the mode base adapter. Just here I can name that input as it will show up on the keypad. In here I have the choice to enter a custom name which will show up on the keypad. By entering a custom name, I will write over whatever source name is on the left hand side. If I choose not to enter a name, it will say not docked if there is no iPod docked, or if there's an iPod docked, it will display the name of the iPod. You can have these all set to aux if they're just standard inputs, and then name them as you see fit. In this example, there's no request, which is a media server in the drop down menu, but I could set it to aux and type in request. I could type in anything I want here. A common source might be an Airport Express, for example. Please note you're limited to your amount of keys that you can enter into your source. This is prompting that. The reason why you're limited is because on your keypad you have a limited amount of characters for displaying the source name. So if I select yes, you can see that it's shortened it to Airport X, which is probably sufficient to show me what this source is. So if I click on the keypad, you'll see that there's a limited amount of space, so it says Airport X. So once you've got your sources sort of named and selected, you need to select Apply. It's important that you select Apply, otherwise you'll lose the changes made. So let's see what happens if I don't select Apply. I select aux, I name this whatever I wish, I'll just call it source. Then I jump over to the Miscellaneous tab and jump back. You'll see that that change hasn't been applied. So I do need to select Apply before selecting anything else, otherwise the changes I make will not take effect. So once I've selected all my sources, now bear in mind that these sources are as they are wired into the MZC. All the MZCs apart from the 88 are 6 sources. If I was to select an 88, I would have 2 sources which are grayed out at the top here, which are the 2 inbuilt tuners. They're grayed out because they are there. You do not need to tell the MZC it's there. If it's an 88, it will know it's there because it's inbuilt. So once I've named all my sources and selected Apply, I can click on a zone and it will ask me which sources I want to make available to each zone. In some cases you may not want all the sources to be available to all the zones, in which case I would just untick certain sources and then reselect apply, and you'll see on the keypad that now I have less sources. The keypad you saw pop up briefly then was the MKP keypad. This one in particular is the MKP. You can see that here too I have less sources selected or available to me in this zone. That is all for this video. I hope you gained some information in regards to how to set up your sources. It's fairly important, so I apologise if I've recovered some information from the previous video, but I just wanted to make you aware of how to select your sources and the fact that you need to apply them and the differences between your source selections when you're using multiple units. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.